So let's talk about this. I'll talk about some of the images I showed today. This was actually shot with a film camera many years ago. This is the real Bellagio, not the one in Las Vegas. We were on a ferry, and I think I shot this with my Leica M6 probably 14 years ago. Talk a little bit about my real job. I am actually a wedding photographer. I'm based in Los Angeles. I flew in yesterday from Utah, where I shot my first and last double wedding. A brother and sister got married to significant others, so we had 2 getting readies, 2 ceremonies, 2 everything, and that's off my bucket list and never doing that again. But it was a lot of fun. But that's how I make my living. I'm also blessed that I do love traveling. I've been to 44 countries. And don't hate me, but I have a wife who works for American Airlines. So she may be allegedly sitting in the audience, but I won't point her out. All right, how it all started. I spent 30 years in the aerospace industry. I ran aerospace manufacturing companies. When I was a youngster, I loved photography. My dad, when I was 17, got a East German Pratica 35mm camera. And I fell in love with photography in a very different way than a lot of other people do. A lot of people love the dark room and seeing the image being developed years ago. I physically loved the camera, the dials on it, the way it felt. So I got into photography. My aerospace career took off a little bit, and there was a period in my life, probably 13 years, I did not take one single photograph. My wife actually documented my kids growing up. In 1998, I was on a business trip in Washington, D.C., had an afternoon to kill. Ended up in a camera store, bought a Nikon N70 film camera, a lens, a flash, sat in the hotel room all night trying to figure out what TTL meant, because that was all new to me. I'm a highly addictive personality. A year later, I had a Leica M6, I had a Hasselblad, and a Nikon F100, all the lenses to go with it. And everywhere I traveled, I would take photographs. This was actually shot in Greece in, I want to say around, it was right just before the Olympics. This is the island of Naxos. It was shot on film on an X-Pan camera. Anyways, I never thought I'd be a wedding photographer or a professional photographer at all. I thought I would do landscapes, and I had a nephew, I'm from Canada originally, I had a nephew call me and ask me to photograph his wedding. I'm like, oh, this is sort of fun. Maybe when I retire at 65. 11 years ago, I'm running this company. If my boss came in on a Friday afternoon, really ticked me off. Monday morning, I was a wedding photographer. No clients, but I was a full-time photographer. So here I am. That's how I started, and that's what I'm doing these days. So today, I just want to talk about defining what I think travel photography is, talk a little bit about some gear and accessories, some preparation and planning for traveling, a little bit of post-production work, the actual shooting, and also a little bit about sharing your work, which I think is really important. So let's define travel photography. A lot of people think you have to go to Europe, Asia. This program, OPTIC, is all about adventure. So some people like mountain climbing. There was a guy named Galen Roll. I don't know if anybody knows who he was. I was all set to take his workshop, and then unfortunately he was killed in a plane crash. But he was definitely a phenomenal landscape photographer, but also an adventurous because he would climb mountains. But I would also say here in New York, going to Central Park, going to a zoo. I live in LA, taking my grandkids to Disneyland. Those are all sort of like travel-related things. Some people, it's a vacation of a lifetime. World travel, I love that. And then the other thing at the very bottom here I really love are road trips. I think it's a very Americana, road trips. I've done a bunch as a kid with my parents. My wife and I have done one up the West Coast, and 2 years ago I had a son who was working in Yellowstone, and we drove from LA to Yellowstone, and it was beautiful. So road trips are travel photography as well. This particular photograph here, that was shot in Holland many years ago. We just pulled over. This is a road, bike path, walking path, and canal. All right, let's talk about some shooting skills that you need for travel photography. And ironically, you shoot weddings. Anybody else photograph weddings? Yeah, a couple of hands went up. Ironically, I think travel photography and wedding photography, it's the exact same skill set, which is sort of ironic, and we'll talk about that a little bit. First of all, you got to be a good portrait photographer. So you have to know how to take portraits. My wife and I were in Vietnam 4 years ago. It was our first trip. We took a private cooking class. And this young lady, who turned out to be 102 years old, climbed up these steps, and she was selling scarves. She's wearing one. My wife is a scarfaholic. That's why I won't point her out in this room. But of course, she bought scarves off of this lady. And I just nodded and sort of, can I take a picture? And she said yes. So you need to have good portrait taking skills. So you need to like practice and sort of like understand light. And we're going to talk about what lenses to use in a few minutes. Landscapes. Speaking of landscapes, I love landscape photography. This is also Vietnam. I would love to tell you that we had a hike 10 miles to get this shot. In reality, we rented a little walk. We were going to go on a walking tour. We're on this little tour bus, and I literally stepped off the bus, one step, raised my camera, and took this picture. We did hike all down through. My laser's not working very well here, but we did hike down in that valley, and that was amazing. But you got to be a good landscape photographer. And that's true in weddings too these days. I was just in Utah, epic. It was very warm, but all the mountains had snow on them. So you still want to take photographs with like very tiny bride and groom and still show the whole landscape. My biggest weakness, macro photography. You still have to do it in weddings. You got to photograph the rings and everything. But when you travel, there's always little knickknacks in different countries. This was Morocco. So there's always little things that'll tell the story about where you've been. So you really have to have a macro lens. Photojournalism. A lot of people these days, that's the style of wedding photography they want, but you got to do that in travel photography as well. It's Morocco. We went to a co-op. They sent us to a co-op where there were all these different artisans and vendors. And my wife was shopping for scarves again. And I got a little bored, so I sat on this bench. And I was really intrigued with the ceiling. I was and the doors and framing the shot when this lady walked by. So just capturing a moment. Action. So again, weddings, there's always action. Dance floor, reception, bride coming down the aisle. This is a typical road in Vietnam. Anybody been to Vietnam? One hand? Okay, I'm going to show you something you probably recognize. So let's take a look at this video. As you can see, there's no roads. This is Hanoi. And I got to tell you, right here, the last trip, there was a guy selling balloons, and my wife gave him $10, and she stood out in the middle with like 1,000 balloons, and we photographed her here with all the traffic going by. I'm sorry?
That's great.
Yeah, so that's traffic and that's action. And then these days, video. Every camera you buy today comes with a little red button. I don't profess to be a filmmaker. I'm the furthest from it. I'm a lousy editor. But as you'll see later on today when I show a small presentation from Morocco, these days, if you're traveling, just press that little red button. Shoot it like you're shooting regular still photos, but capture 5, 10, 15-second video clips to tell your story. And last but not least, still got to take the old family photo. This is me in 2001 with my 3 boys who are all grown up. I have grandkids now, and we're climbing the Great Wall. I had a camera bag that's not showing, but I bet it weighed 60 pounds. It was like every Nikon lens known to man. And now with mirrorless, I do not have that problem at all. The other great thing about the Great Wall, I was probably in my 40s there, and I thought it would be easy to climb the wall. No 2 stairs are the same height, and no 2 stairs are the same depth. And there were like 80-year-old women smoking me climbing this wall, Chinese women who were from there. It was amazing. All right, this is South Africa. So let's talk a little bit about the gear for travel photography. First of all, let's talk about mirrorless versus DSL. Smaller size, easier to pack. Do you have the grip on that?
No.
No. So I shoot weddings. I have 2 GH5s, and I put the grip on them. So they probably look like the size of a DSLR, but where the magic happens is the lenses. So if you look to an equivalent of a 70 to 200 lens, it's about that long, it's about that round, it's about 1/4 the size of a Nikon or Canon 70 to 200. So it's really smaller size, less weight, which is definitely easier on the body. So I'm working a wedding 10 hours all day. I got all that gear. I feel really great the next day. Whereas in the past, I was like, I used to call it wedding hangover. I'd be totally beat up. Same when traveling. I can have a small bag now. I can have 3 or 4 lenses and 1 or 2 bodies with me, and it hardly weighs anything. And most of the bodies and lenses are about half the price than a DSLR. So here's an example. This is the GX8 and the GX85. I always travel with 2 bodies. And if you're traveling with your spouse, you can put a lens on there, let your spouse shoot it, and you still have a backup body in case something was ever to happen to your camera. So I always like traveling with two bodies, two cameras. This is an example. I traveled to Morocco with my wife. I gave her a camera and a lens. I put it in. We're going to talk about Panasonic's IA mode, which stands for Intelligent Auto. We're walking along, and my wife goes, "Hey, what do you think of this?" I look at it, and this is her photo. I reminded her she was working for William Innes Photography, and I own copyright to this photo. So, lens considerations. You really need to consider a large spectrum from wide angle to long focal lengths and what type of image quality you want. And then again, low light. Depends what you're shooting on travel. If it's dark, then you obviously need fast lenses. And cost is a factor. So we're going to talk about some of the lenses. The least expensive lenses are kit lenses that come with cameras. A lot of the Lumix cameras are sold as kits. And if you're just starting out and want to go mirrorless, that may be the way to go. So as you can see, like this top lens covers from 45 to 200. Unfortunately, it's f4 to 5.6, so it's not a super fast lens, but it will cover a lot of territory. So those are the least expensive. The best solution for travel are these lenses, and so 12 to 35 is equivalent to 24 to 70. So it's a 2 times crop factor, so you have to sort of double these. 35 to 100 would be your 70 to 100, 7 to 14 would be your 14 to 24, etc. But these are good travel lenses. They're versatile, they cover a lot of area, and they're reasonably priced. There's a couple of new ones out. They just came out with a 12 to 60. It's 2.8 to f4. And wherever you see this OIS, that means that there's stabilization, image stabilization built right into the lens. And now with the new GH5, it's got image stabilization built into the camera, and they actually work together. So there's dual image stabilization available now, which means when you talk about low light, you can shoot at a lot lower shutter speed, 1/30th of a second. If you're younger than me, maybe 1/15th of a second, but I shake, I'm getting up there in years. But these would be the best solution for travel. Yet my favorite thing to shoot with in the whole world, regardless of what I'm shooting with, are primes. And obviously they cost a little bit more, but this top one, the Nakricon 42.5, is equivalent to an 85. It's 1.2. It's my favorite lens, and I use it the most, whether it be travel, portraiture, weddings, whatever. But these are 3 groups of lenses, and it really comes down to cost. Okay, let's talk about some other things. Camera bags and backpacks. There's a lot of great bags out there. I'm associated with a Vanguard camera bag. They're making some great bags. But let's talk about bags for a second. You really have to know where you're traveling. My last trip to Morocco, I got robbed. I got pickpocketed. And we were in a souk market area. And I felt somebody, and I turned around. There were 2 kids standing about 10 feet away. And my wife was maybe 10 feet that way. And I asked her, "Is my backpack open?" I turned around, and she said yes. And they got my Beats headphones. So they were like 16, 17. I'm like 58 at the time. I thought about chasing them. Then I thought maybe not to chase them. And then I thought, what would happen if I caught them? I'm in a foreign country. And so I waved and said, "Enjoy the headphones." If they had gone one more zipper deeper, they would have got my passport and $500 cash. So depending where you're going, you may want to take a ratty backpack and buy a good camera bag. Most of the camera bags these days, you can remove the inserts, the foam. You can stick that in a back, like a really dirty, disgusting looking backpack. Still protect your gear, but not walk around with like a To-Me backpack that says, "Rob me, rob me." So it depends where you're going. Tripods, there's a lot of great little travel tripods. I saw somebody with a VO camera bag right here. They make a great little VO travel tripod now, carbon fiber. Memory cards. Okay, so I have a double asterisk besides battery and chargers. You can buy memory cards pretty well anywhere in the world these days, but depending what camera you have, do you think you can buy batteries for your camera if you're in Timbuktu? Probably not. So buy lots of batteries, take a charger. Somebody today, I just took a picture of it. It's on my iPhone. I'm going to buy it when I get home. You can buy a universal charger these days that'll charge all camera batteries, and it's only $30. If you come and see me after, I'll tell you what brand it is. Cables, important. Maps, travel books. Travel books are really, really important. I read a lot of travel books. Do you bring an iPad or do you bring a laptop? Either or, but you gotta wanna have a way to get your pictures onto it. The great thing about all the new Lumix cameras is you can send your photos wirelessly to your device, to your phone, to your mobile iPad, and then you can edit them after. That's what I love. I love sending 2 or 3 pictures to my iPhone. I'm sitting in a cafe, I've shot something. I can edit it using, we're gonna talk about some of the software I use, Snapseed, whatever, and then upload it to social media. User manuals. This one's interesting too, and I have double asterisks on this too. You can get any user manual in PDF format these days. Download the PDF format and put it on your phone, or put it in Dropbox, or some way you can get to that manual. Because at weddings, I have every single manual with me all the time in my camera bag. Nothing freaks me out more than shooting a wedding and looking in the viewfinder and nothing's happening and there's some weird code flashing, F224P or something, whatever it is. If you have the manual, you can quickly, usually figure out what's going wrong and get it fixed really quick. Good walking shoes, needless to say, and bring a bright light. Can't remember, I think this might have been Portugal when we were over there. Okay, tip number 1. I'll go through some tips. I have some tips today. Create a checklist. This is what my checklist looks like. Actually, I don't know if David had it. He asked me to send it, and he was going to do some printouts. But if not, we can get it to you. I know David through B&H has it. The reason you want a checklist is because there's a great book called Getting Things Done by, I think his name is Robert Allen. Or it's David Allen, Getting Things Done. And what he talks about is if you make lists, then you're freeing your brain to have to remember those things. This is my checklist for weddings, but I use it for travel photography too. So it's really, really important. Create a checklist. And the reason I started doing this, when I was 18, I went on my first road trip, my first vacation. I grew up in Montreal. I had a Camaro. We're going to drive down Cape Cod, and I was a camping trip. And I got to my first destination. I had a tent, but no tent poles. So I had to sleep in a hotel and blow my budget. So hence, now I have checklists. This line, I would love to tell you it was in Africa, but we were in a car when I took this picture. Read travel books. I covered that before. It's true, I do read travel books. I read a lot of them. This is my collection with my little mini Leicas. This brand, Lonely Planet, good information, but no pictures. These ones are the best because they have lots of pictures. And you want lots of pictures because it'll give you inspiration and ideas of where to go and shoot and what to shoot. Google Earth and Google are your friend before you travel. So there's 2 ways. For instance, I searched India portrait. India is a country I have not been to yet. It's high on my checklist. This picture came back. It's a copyright Mayor and Mayor. I don't know who they are. But it did a couple of things. It talked about in Google what village it was taken in, so I know where maybe these people sort of live or this look. And it also, for me, it's inspiration. I think this is a great portrait. So I use Google a lot before I go somewhere to learn about the country I'm going to. Then there's a thing called Google Earth. Anybody familiar with Google Earth? Yeah, a few of you. This is Google Earth Pro, and it's now free. And the beauty of it is, first of all, this is Bruges in Belgium. Anybody ever seen the movie In Bruges? Not one hand. Oh, man, way out in the back. See? Yeah, great movie, right? Yeah, see? Thumbs up. 2 thumbs up. I'm not going to ruin it, but this tower here comes into play in the movie, but you should watch it. It's called In Bruges, and it's very funny. Anyways, this is Bruges, Belgium. So not to tell you how spoiled I am, but 2 years ago, my wife and I were going to go to Ecuador for a week and sort of photograph and hang out. And the day before we were going to go, we checked the weather, and it was going to rain all week in Ecuador. So having a wife that works for American Airlines, we're like, oh man, the weather in Belgium's awesome. And the next day, here we were in Bruges, Belgium. I know, I'm spoiled. Anyways, I don't know if you can see on the TV all these little blue dots. Can you see them on there? There's tons of them. Those are geomarkers. And if you go to Google Earth Pro and you click on any one of those little markers, boom, it shows you where the picture was taken, where it was pointed, and gives you a lot of information. So you can actually sort of know where to go and shoot anywhere in the world before you go. And you can see other photographs that people have taken right down to the, whatever it is, the GPS coordinates. A couple of other things, prep planning. I always write down a list of shots I want to take by doing my research using Google and Google Earth. I also research when to go. That's really important for a lot of countries. A lot of countries have monsoon season, or it's 110 degrees, and maybe you don't want to be there at that particular time. A couple of other great places for information are both TripAdvisor and Lonely Planet. I use them a lot. A couple of other things, visual review, lay out everything out. I do this for my weddings. I do this no matter where I shoot. I lay everything out like it's going to go in my camera bag, and it goes the same way in my camera bag every single time. By doing that, I know I've got everything and I haven't missed anything. Now, my dear wife never puts her iPhone in the same place twice. And I can't tell you, maybe 5 times a day that iPhone is lost. And then it's like, oh, here it is. She's going to hate me. I know it. I'm going to be paying for this. But so always pack it in the same place, same way every single time. One other last thing you can do, too, is when you get to a destination, look at postcards. They sell postcards all over the world, right? So all you have to do is land at a destination, say you're going to Paris, go to Paris, find postcards, hold them up, take a picture of the postcard, and then send them to your friends and tell them you took those pictures. No, I wouldn't do that. But it is good inspiration. And maybe there's a cool photograph and you buy the postcard, you don't know where it was taken, ask at your hotel. Say, hey, where is this? And then you can go photograph there as well. So it really comes down to doing a lot of homework and research. Let's talk about capturing some of the images. This is Mykonos. Took a little bit of work. We had a hike. We were staying at a hotel way over here, and we had a hike up. And I was amazed at first at how many churches. Everywhere I looked, there were buildings like these with crosses. And I'm like, there's a church every 25 feet in Mykonos in Greece. And then we figured out they're not churches, they're crypts. That's where they bury their dead. But we hiked up there, and I got really lucky with the shadow, with the bell. Sometimes photography is just about luck. So let's talk about this, capturing the images. You need to be a storyteller. I think that's the one thing you really have to think about when you travel. Tell a story. So I'll give you an example. I'd been to London many, many times, but I had never been to St. Paul's here. I'd always been to Westminster Abbey and all over. So we were there a couple of years ago, and we did the tour. And we walked across this bridge to get to the other side of the river. Unfortunately, very close to where the attack was the other night. And I turned around, and there's a lot of leading lines. There's people, there's action, and St. Paul's. So to me, it's telling the story. It just sort of takes me back to that trip to London. This is an area called La Bocca, It's in Buenos Aires, Argentina. You cannot take a bad picture there if you like shooting in color, because every single building is painted in these bright colors. And it goes back to probably 100 years ago, maybe. People were very poor in this area, and they would get the leftover paint from the shipbuilding business, and they would paint their homes with it. So super colorful. You do need to shoot up, because down here are thousands and thousands of people, because the tour buses love pulling in there. This is Buenos Aires, too. Another thing I love doing is going off the beaten path. I do scare my wife sometimes where I want to go in some of these cities walking around, but I like to go to the non-tourist areas. So we ended up going to the main street in Buenos Aires where the locals went shopping, not where the tourists went. We were walking along, and we discovered this bookstore and a theater. It was absolutely amazing. And unfortunately, as we all know, bookstores are going to be gone soon. This was the coffee shop on the stage. It was a great, great location. Vietnam, everybody familiar with the term now pop-up restaurants or pop-up stores? They're happening everywhere. This is a restaurant that serves thousands of people every night, and they set it up every night. And they tear it down. It's a parking lot by day, and by nighttime, it's a restaurant with young women all in uniforms. You can eat a chicken, steak, or whatever dinner with a couple of beers for like $5. You can get the same thing on a street corner for $2. I like doing that, too. But this picture with I see the smoke, and I can smell the dinner right now. I want to go back and have another Hanoi beer. Quebec City, there were people here today from Quebec City. I was talking to them. Quebec City is a great place. It's like a poor man's Europe. It still has the wall around the city. It's got cobblestone streets. It's only a couple hours from here. It's beautiful. Restaurants, next to New York, it could probably be the best food in all of North America. For those of you that are my age, you remember the wooden telephone poles, and then they would plaster signs all over them? They're still doing that there. So they're advertising some Christmas show, and then for people over 55, they had a Frank Zappa tribute going on. For those of you under 55, he was a great rock and roll musician. I do that on purpose because a lot of people, Tiananmen Square, we went. I took my family. My boys were all blonde, 3 blonde boys. And we were known calling them the Chinese Backstreet Boys because the locals were just fascinated that there were 3 blonde boys walking around. The other amazing thing standing there and shooting here was this, 11 years before this, was the uprising. And just knowing that people were killed, and it was just an amazing place to be. So again, for me, it's telling a personal story. I'm going to come up on tip number 2, but this tells a real story for me. My father-in-law passed away a year ago, and we were over in Holland 5 years ago, and we were driving around to try to find the house that he was born in. And we did find it, in the church he got married in. And then there was this pub, so it has to do with beer, which I like, and bicycles, which is very Dutch. So I'm going to talk about tip number 2. And tip number 2 is take a photo tour. Been to 3 of the 4 major Hawaiian islands. I think it was maybe 5 years ago, 6 years ago, we went to Kauai for the first time, which turns out is my favorite Hawaiian island. And we're driving to our hotel, and here's this big neon sign that says, take a photo tour. And my wonderful wife looks at me and says, we should take a photo tour. And in my brain, I'm thinking, I'm a professional photographer. I don't need no darn photo tour. But I've been married 37 years, so I did what anybody married 37 years. I looked at her and said, that's a great idea, babe. So we signed up and we took a photo tour. And 2 things happened that I learned. Number 1, you get to hang out with people like you. So everybody is a photo enthusiast, and you can talk cameras and gear and everything. That was amazing. There was like maybe 12 of us on the bus. But the brilliant thing is I got to learn very quickly where to go and shoot and where not go to shoot. I learned secret places in Kauai that I would have never found myself to go and shoot. So my tip is, if you're going somewhere for a week or 2, arrange a photo tour right at the beginning of your trip. Go on it, learn where you want to go, and then you can go back on your leisure and shoot there for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, or you'll also know where not to go. Shooting images. So here's the old argument, RAW or JPEG, right? For weddings, I shoot RAW. For travel, I shoot JPEG. If you know how to nail your exposure, the JPEGs in these cameras are pretty awesome. Tip number 3, use technology. So in Lumix, you know everybody, all cameras have P for professional, P for program mode. Lumix has what they call IA, intelligent auto mode. It is amazing. I mean, sometimes I think there's a satellite up in the sky watching you, and they know what you're doing. Because my wife would be taking a picture of food, and a little symbol of food would show up on the back of the camera. Very scary. I'm going to show you a slideshow and talk a little bit more about that in a second. We talked about shooting video clips. Everybody know what ND filters are, neutral density filters. They're really important for the sky. Remember Koken filters with your big DSLR? You would have that big thing holding the filters. You know the little mirrorless cameras? You know what's great about it? I just hand hold it, put it back in the case. Same even with a polarizer. If I want to use a polarizer, I just hold it up with my hand and rotate it. I don't even put it in any type of bracket or anything and shoot. That's what's great about the smaller cameras. Artistic modes. These cameras, when digital cameras first came out, they all had artistic modes. They were really cheesy and bad. It's amazing what they can do now. I'm sure a lot of brands have it. Panasonic has it. And somebody sort of coined the phrase pre-processing instead of post-processing. So you can take some really cool, artsy type looking images right in the camera these days. And then I always tell people to use different focal lengths for variety. So shooting wide, shooting, same scene, just shoot wide, shoot tight, and get different aspects. And also remember to shoot scenes vertical and horizontal. I got that in my brain from magazines. So shooting weddings, the magazines, you want to be able to give them what they need. So if you can shoot wide, tight, horizontal, vertical, you're going to get a large variety of images, and one will definitely work for you. I always tell people what to shoot. Markets are my favorite thing around the world to shoot. If you have a queasy stomach, you may want to be careful of certain markets in certain countries because there's things that you may not want to see. Details, we talked about that. Always look for little details that are unique to where you are. I love shooting signs everywhere I go. Signs, signs, signs. It sort of takes me back, and there's always certain information on signs that you can go back and read. Local action, you go to certain countries, they have different sports than we have. Something going on that's action-oriented that's different than the United States and Canada, photograph it. Wildlife, that's for Las Vegas. No, it's not. Scenic landscapes, there's always great landscapes around. anything unique, and then we talked about video. But to me, the most important thing to photograph when you travel the world is people. People, people. It's really what makes the world go around. There's so many unique people in this world. Photograph them. Now, a question I always get asked is, should you pay to photograph people? That's a personal decision for you to make up, but a lot of these people in the world are really struggling and have a hard time, and to give them $1 to take a picture, I'm personally not against that. You're helping them out and you're getting a great image. So I leave that up to you. And then don't forget photos of yourself. Really important. I was traveling to South Africa in my old life. I was on a business trip. I was with my friend from England, and you have to show no fear. This was only a 6-month-old lion cub. Look at the size of its paws. They're like this big. And I had to show him who was in control because he wanted to eat the kneecap of my friend when he was on my friend's lap. He was so nervous. He was just like wreaking fear, and the lion knew it too. It was like, so take pictures of yourself. And then I invented the selfie. That's me with my Leica. I was in Argentina. This is Eva Perón's crypt, whatever you want to call it. It's black marble, and it was raining that day. So this is a reflection of me in her tomb. And then I did a bunch of Photoshop work, and I have this print hanging in my house. So, selfie. How to get some good images. So this is Quebec City, by the way, I was talking about in winter. I mean, it's absolutely stunning if you haven't been there. Hire a local to take you places. There's a lot of countries in the world. I've done it in Thailand. I've done it in Indonesia. You can get a driver and a Mercedes, Lexus, air-conditioned, and for $25 for the day. It's pretty amazing. And then you can tell them, hey, I'm going to tip you $5 or $10. Don't take me where the tourists go. And they'll take you to some really, really cool places. And then I usually buy them lunch or whatever. So we do that in groups sometimes, get 2 or 3 people and get a private driver. Already talked about explore off the beaten path. It is so important. You'll capture some awesome images. Another thing I love doing at a lot of places is just sitting in a local cafe. Paris has great cafes. Morocco has great cafes. Italy, you can just sort of sit outside and watch the world go by. Just have your camera ready to go because you will capture some amazing stuff. And then, just like you sitting here today, through Facebook, social media, or just in person, I always talk to other photographer friends that have traveled to certain countries and ask them what their experience was. Do they have any recommendations? It's another great way to capture great photos. Rear button focus. I have to high-five this lady sitting in the front because she came and asked today how to set her Lumix camera on rear button focus. I'm not going to go into how to do it today, but if you're not doing it, you should Google it and figure it out. Basically what it is your index finger is used to take pictures and your rear finger is used to focus. And it takes about a week to get used to, but once you get used to it, it's pretty amazing. You will get a lot more sharper images than you're getting now. Wireless capabilities, we talked about that, so that's the great thing with Lumix cameras. I send the images right to my iPhone, and then I use a program called Perfectly Clear. I use Snapseed, which is by Nick/Google, which last week announced they're not going to necessarily support it anymore. My favorite app is called Mextures, and most people don't know about Mextures, but you can actually put textures and light leaks and these cool grain and really cool things, and you can do multiple layers. You can keep stacking it. And if you go on their website, there's tons of pre-made formulas you can download. So Mextures is great. I love apps with the iPhone. People go, how much is it? And you go, $299, or like, $299? I'm like, do you remember when software used to cost $300, $400? Come on, $299, it's a steal. And then there's another one that's probably $299, Pick Tap Go, which is by a company called Rad Lab. That's pretty cool too. And you can also create formulas and stack. So if you're editing pictures on a phone or a smart device, this is the way to go. This is Shanghai, the Bund district that was shot on film. So on desktop, I'm a big believer in Photo Mechanic for sorting my pictures. I do not bring them into Lightroom. I only bring my keepers into Lightroom. Problem with Lightroom is it renders very slow, and it moves from raw image to raw image super slow. Photo Mechanic, lightning fast if you're trying to sort raw images. Once I have my keepers, then they go into Lightroom. Perfectly Clear, again, is an amazing program for finishing your photos. One click in many cases. And then Photoshop, out of all of these, my favorite lately is alien skin. It's so funny. We talk about noise and wanting to take noise out of images. Now we love putting grain back into images to be very retro. And nobody does it better than it's called X2 by Alien Skin. Tip number 6, I believe in printing your work. What good is it if it's only on your phone or in a computer, right? That's the problem today. We take all these images, we have thousands and millions and gazillions of images, and we're not printing them. So downstairs was the memento frame. I don't know if you've seen that. It's pretty amazing. I print a lot of my work. A lot of the travel images you see today are hanging in my home as canvases. So I also make albums. So I try to make an album from each trip I take. It's pretty cool. Pull them out, share them with people. Social media, it's another way to share, although I like talking about albums and prints because somebody told me once that's technology my grandmother could use. And it's true. Grandmas can use albums, but they can't necessarily use phones or social media. Flickr, slideshows, and then there's this app called Mosaic. I don't know if anybody's heard of this. This is what it looks like. So what you can do with Mosaic is you can use iPhone pictures if you want, lower quality. If you want higher quality pictures, what you can do is transfer your images from what camera you're shooting to your iPhone, and then you pick 20 images, and there's 1 image per page, and this book I think is like, I want to say 8 by 8 or 7 by 7. It's got an opening that shows each picture, then each individual picture's on a page, and it comes in a beautiful box, and it's like $20. And you order it right off your iPhone. So they make beautiful gifts if you're traveling. So I'm going to show you. Remember I talked about intelligent auto? So here's something I learned. I love traveling and I love photography, but I found that whenever I traveled, I was walking around, and this is how I would see where I was. I always had the camera up. I was always like working on taking pictures. So I went to Morocco a couple years ago, 2014. And I made a conscious decision that I was going to take those 2 bodies with me, and I put them in intelligent auto mode. I let the camera decide how to take the photograph. Every picture I'm going to show you in this slideshow, except the last one, was shot that way. So basically, I would see something that was cool. I would just take the picture and then move on and get to experience Morocco, which was an amazing trip, and I would definitely go back there. So I'm just going to show this real quick. It's a mosque, and actually you can go in and tour it. It's one of the few in the world anybody can go in. It's the 3rd largest mosque in the world. I like comedy. No diarrhea guarantee at that restaurant, the guy told me. He lied. Ladder salesman. If my wife could get a guy in a red robe, I could get a guy in a red robe. I'm very competitive. Remember little video clips. They don't have to be long. It's a tannery, and they use pigeon poop to cure the leather. And they give you mint leaves to walk around under your nose because the smell is like, woof. Yeah. if it worked once, it'll work again. I hung out in that, waiting for somebody to walk by. Some of these pictures my wife did take, by the way. I have to give her credit, just because she's sitting in the room right now. This square was funny. No matter what direction you went in the city, like an hour later, you would end up at this square. I don't know how it works, but this building here is the oldest continuous teaching university in the world. It's been around since the year 700. And there's an American team, they're over and they're restoring it, and it has never stopped teaching since the year 700. Got to watch where you step in the little streets. That's his job. There's guys making like wool, and he stood there and just sort of fed them all day long. Every time we'd walk by, he'd do that. This last picture, I shot that like at f/22 because I wanted to get a star burst. We were sitting up having a glass of wine on the roof. It was our last day. So anyways, that's Morocco. But all of it intelligent auto except the last bit. Are we okay with 15 more minutes? Yeah? Okay, I'll be quick. Traveling lighter. I went to Prague 2 winters ago because we wanted to go to Christmas market. I traveled with a point and shoot, an LX100. There's one downstairs. This is what I shot. This is on the bridge. There's the bridge. That's hanging over my sofa in my living room. Big, massive canvas, St. Charles Bridge. That picture is showing on the memento frames downstairs, shot with a point and shoot. Now 6K video, back at the time 4K video. I pulled this out of video. Royal Palace, raining. And then the Christmas market. And I was talking to one of my coworkers today. I have an extreme fear of heights. And this is a tower, and that's the Christmas market down below. You go to the top of the tower, and the wall is about this high. And they used to execute people in Prague by just throwing them over the edge back in the day, 400 or 500 years ago. And there's tons of tourists, and they're all jostling, and I am like freaking out. My wife's laughing at me. And finally, to get that picture, I had to bite the bullet and lean over and take it. This is Costa Rica. This is a resort we stayed at. And the ex-president of Costa Rica used to own this property at one time. And for his, I don't know what it was, 50th wedding anniversary, he built his wife a chapel, and that's on the property. My name is William. That's my buddy, Billy. While I took this picture, Billy's brother was eating my leather camera strap down here. GX8, another small point and shoot, shooting birds. I am definitely not a birder, but we did go and shoot birds in Costa Rica. There was, I don't know what you call it, a butterfly conservatory in Costa Rica with 1 million butterflies. Yeah. But we're sitting in the cloud forest, we're sitting eating at the cafeteria, and this guy flew by right beside me and landed. I just like turned around and shot it. More birds. That trip to Belgium, GX8 again. I love red. Okay, so I'm going to do a quick thing here. Last 2016, I traveled with my wife. I'll tell you the story real quick, and I'll show you the pictures. There's a wedding photographer in LA. His name is Jim Kennedy. He is one of the organizers of an organization to help people called RAC Life, Random Acts of Kindness. No religious affiliation, nothing. The whole idea is they go around the world and help people. I knew he was doing this. He was going to Vietnam to build a bathroom, just a bathroom. This family had no toilet in Vietnam. We did a homestay. I took 2 of these point and shoot cameras. That's all I took with me. ZS-100, they're downstairs. No big camera gear. I'm going to show you the trip real quick. So we got to Hanoi, and we spent the first night in Hanoi, and I already showed you what traffic's like there. It's a crazy city, but it's beautiful, a lot of fun, great food. This is what Hanoi looks like. Then we went to Mae Chau. This is a valley. This is where we were going to help the people. This is just before we drove down into the valley. We stayed, it's very Thai, they're called black Thai. They originally come from Thailand, a lot of the people here in Vietnam. And we did a homestay. I've never done a youth hostel, but this was my first sort of like type of thing. Because everybody slept on the floor, on a mattress, upstairs. There was 12 of us, and we all shared the upstairs, all of us. And then there were like communal bathrooms, and they would feed us home-cooked meals 3 times a day. So we show up, and there's 1 million blocks that we now have to carry across this bridge. You do not want to end up in this water. And when we got there, there was no guardrail to hang on to, no railing. You just sort of had you're on bamboo, and you got to carry these blocks. The next morning, magically, there was a guardrail somebody had built overnight to help us. So we had to move all these blocks over here. This was their bathroom, by the way. This is where they would cook. This was their kitchen, and that was what they were using for a bathroom. There's a family of a husband, a wife, a young baby, an old grandmother you'll see, and a baby on the way. So this is a house they lived in. Everybody over there gets a rice paddy to tend to, which is sort of cool. So here we are carrying bricks over. This is a little time lapse. That's the other thing you can do with these cameras today, which is really cool. Take a tripod. If something's going to happen with action, just set your camera on a tripod. You can like take a picture every 5 seconds, 6 seconds, whatever. You can use intelligent auto mode again because it'll adjust for the sun coming and going and brightness and darkness. And that's how we got rid of all those cement blocks, which weighed, I don't know, 20 pounds each. My hands were pretty beat up after. So we're all happy, yay. And then they took us around the corner here, and there was another pile. We would carry 2 at a time. This lady was carrying 5 at a time in that basket. She was a local. There I am, cement blocks. There's Grandma tending the ox. Somebody had donated an ox to this family. That's like gold over there because it'll work the field. There's Mom and the baby. She's pregnant, ready to go. So what happened was we found out Grandma was living underneath the house. So we're like, okay, we're over here. So the idea was we would work in the morning and go play in the afternoon. So we're like, let's get some more cement blocks and build a bedroom for Grandma too. So now we're going to build a bathroom and a bedroom. There's my wife. She became a bricklayer. So if I ever build a house, I'll be good to go. So here we are. This is the bathroom. That's the bedroom we're building. Oh, and every afternoon we would ride motorcycles, and you'll see, we'd go out to villages. I crashed. I ended up in a Vietnamese hospital. I can tell that story later. Stitches, the whole 9 yards. It cost $34. The emergency room doctor had to make change because nobody had change. My wife and I hanging out, one of our afternoon adventures. We would get candy. We would spend $10, go out to these villages, and this would be the welcoming party for us. We would get invited into people's homes and have tea. So this guy played the flute. We'd sit on the floor because there was no furniture, and she would serve tea to all of us. One night, we're sleeping in this homestay, and it is like the fiercest thunderstorm I have ever heard in my life. And we show up the next morning, and this house is ready to go. So you know what we do? We tore down the whole house. Here we go. And then we made a decision to build them a whole new house, still within a week. This Jim Kennedy and his now fiancée brought over 8 duffel logs of clothes that they had their clients and friends donate, and they would hand it out. So now we're like, okay, well, we're building a bathroom and a bedroom. Let's just go on and build a whole house. But you know, you need to take a break. So this is their pond behind the house. This is the guy who lives there. And yeah, we got fish, and then we had lunch. When the house was done, the local elder came over. He's sitting there chanting. He's blessing the new house. We even did stucco on the outside. And this is what it looked like. So we all put our names here. There's Rack Life. We took about $100. We went into town and bought new furniture and new supplies and diapers and everything. And then this is the family. Another family, that's how they ride, 4 to a motorcycle. More kids. We would go hang out with kids in the afternoon. My friend Alan showing kids how to eat candy. And then there's the house we built. So I just also want to say, even with a point and shoot, you can still create awesome images. So those were just sort of documentary, but still with that point and shoot, I'll show you a few images I did in Vietnam. So this is the rice field right beside the house where they were living. Went to another house to have tea. I love black and white. Grandma, black and white. Just a lady working in the rice fields. This guy, the previous trip they had gone on, they found this guy and they built him a little house really quick. And what he does is he sits in there all day drinking rice wine while his wife goes out and finds firewood to go into the town and sell so they have money to buy rice wine for the next day. And that's basically their whole life. But he did like the women, I will say that. Of course. Welcoming committee, they all got suckers in their mouth. And then this is my favorite shot. It's one of the last ones, but a lady working in her field with her dog. A couple of other quick things, 6K photo. It used to be 4K, but now with the GH5, it's 6K. You can actually shoot video and pull, I think it's 17 or 18 megapixel stills out of the video. It's amazing, so you'll never miss a moment. It's available in these cameras, but the GH5 has 6K. These other ones have 4K. They also have a thing called post-focus, which is amazing. So what you can actually do these days is take a picture using post-focus mode, look at the back of the camera, and touch what you want to be in focus, and then save that as a JPEG. And then you can even do a thing called focus stacking, which Apple does a lot for their images. So you can do an image where every single plane is in focus. So you can take 30 images using this and then combine them into one single image right in the camera. Shoot your own city, New York. My son has become a really good shooter, and his idea is to go out at night in Los Angeles and shoot, and he's dragged me out a few times. So this was only taken a few weeks ago when the GH5 first came out. That's the GH5 a couple of weeks ago in LA. So just go out, stop, have a meal, and practice your travel skills. Last, that is my wife, with 2 more Vietnamese people who are also selling scarves, as you can see. But I always ask, why do we take travel photos and why do we travel? And is it like to share? Is it to document our life? Is it for us to remember memories? For me, it's more about the memory part.